One thing a lot of people don't realize is that the best decisions that you can make as an entrepreneur really just comes from one or two buckets, right? And if you get this mental model right, you will not only grow faster with more profit than you currently are right now. You will also stop wasting time, right? And time is the one thing that entrepreneurs cannot get back. So I spent a lot of time on teaching how to do proper priorities, because if you spend 100 hours and the person next to you spends 100 hours, but your output, like the quality of the output that you're doing is double, you're going to get double the results of the person spending the same time, right? So I spent a lot of time doing that. So I'm going to walk you through that in this video of the mental model of how to prioritize properly based on actual results, right? So before we get into that, my name is Jeremy Reeves. If you don't know me yet, I am the founder of scaleadvisors.com and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Scalable Profit Model. So let me dive into this, right? So the mental model is really that there are two things, two priorities, two frames, or the lenses that we should be looking through as entrepreneurs. And if you're familiar with the content that I teach, I talk about how to build a scalable profit model. And basically, there's like we generate the customers over here that creates the bucket of water. And that bucket of water creates or contains our revenue and potential profit. Okay. And then there's a tube that goes across, and there's holes on the bottom and the top of that tube. Okay. And that water, again, is the potential profit. At the end of that is your actual profit. Okay. And cash. So there are two ways of looking at this. Number one is on the bottom of that pipe are holes where potential profit is leaking out of the pipe. Okay. So therefore, you're not getting profit at the end of the day because you have a leaky bucket. The other side of that is there's holes on the top, and that allows us to add more water to that pipe. Okay, that's not there now, and that comes in the term or in the frame of hidden profit centers. So you're basically adding things that aren't there now. You're adding new profit that's not there now to help replace or make it more efficient the profit that is leaking out the bottom. So if you just look at it in terms of how do we plug the holes on the bottom and how do we add more on the top, you will get better results than the vast majority of entrepreneurs out there today, simply because you're looking at it in the right way. Okay, so let me dive a little bit deeper into both of those buckets, because it's really important to get a couple examples and like really truly understand this, so it actually makes a difference in your life, right? So let's start with we'll start with the bottom, right? So a leaky bucket is like, what does it cost you, right? Like, when you have all that potential profit that's leaking out and it's just dripping on the floor, it's sizzling up on the floor, that means you never get that profit, right? And if you think in terms of profit, all profit is, it's a measure of efficiency. It's how efficiently are you turning revenue into profit, okay? And your profit margin is that number. It's how efficiently you are turning revenue into profit. If you have a 10% margin, that means you're only 10% efficient at turning revenue into profit. Pretty simple concept, right? So we're always looking for ways to make that more efficient. And again, one of the ways you can do that is by plugging the holes so that less of that water is coming out of the bottom of the pipe. All right. So a couple examples of this, like in the physical product space, fulfillment costs. If they're creeping up year after year and you haven't renegotiated, well, all that stuff, that's decreasing your contribution margin, right? Or if you have too much software, you need to clean up some software. That's going to make you more efficient because you're still producing the same amount of revenue with the same or with less expense, right? Less overhead expense. Maybe you have return rates that are eating into your margin, right? So you look at, okay, well, there's a lot of money going out in returns because for whatever reason, maybe your product's not good enough, maybe your product is amazing, but you're overselling in the marketing, so their expectation is here, but your product, even though it's great, only gives them here, so then they refund. Maybe your overhead is growing faster than your revenue, right? There's a lot of different things, right? That could be leaking profit, right? You could have broken things in your funnel. That is very, very common. If you have an upsell funnel, or you have emails that aren't working, or they're going to an old page, or like it's kind of crazy to think about, but there's a lot of things like that happen in a business, especially as you get bigger, because there's so many different projects and not enough eyeballs on each individual project. That's why in my businesses, I always like to do deep dives in, I'll do like a monthly deep dive into a different area of each business and work with the person running that department to do just a full deep dive of that. And then by the time it comes back around, it's like every 6 months or so, right? Then you're doing another deep dive. And it's just this constant iteration of looking for leaky buckets. Where do we have the potential to be making more money than we're not now? A really good one for this is in the contribution margin side of things for physical product businesses. And the first thing that I would recommend, if you're looking through this lens, is to just simply know what your contribution margin is for each of your products, each of your SKUs, each of the price points, all that sort of stuff. There is a crazy statistic. I cannot remember where I saw it, but I've seen it actually multiple times. That says that basically 62% of DTC SKUs are not profitable. 62%. That means just on average, if you have 10 products, if you have 10 SKUs, that means that 6 out of 10 of the things that you're selling are literally losing you money because you're selling them. So think about that one for a second, right? And every business, of course, is going to be different. Maybe you have 0, maybe you have 10. I don't know, right? But the thing is, if you don't know your contribution margin for each of your individual SKUs and price points, don't just think SKUs, but price points too. So for example, if you're selling something for, let's just say, 75 bucks, and it costs you or actually, let's just say you're selling something for 100 bucks and you have a 50% contribution margin, which means that it costs you $50 to sell that product and you're selling it for 100. Well, if you do a discount and you give 55% off discount, okay, well, now it's costing you $50 to sell the product, but you're only getting $45 now instead of 100. So you're literally losing $5 on every single unit that is sold. So if you do a promotion, right? Promotions are one huge area that I always audit with clients, because most people are doing them wrong and they haven't actually done the math, right? And they end up they're like, oh my god, we made all this money, and then they look at their expenses, their P&L the next month, and they're like, wait, where did all that money from the promotion go? And it's like, well, you have more revenue, yes, but you have less profit because you're losing money. Or maybe even, let's just say that you did uh, I don't know, 33% off, right? So you're selling it for 66 bucks and it costs you 50. Well, you're only making $15, which means you have to sell over 3 of them, right? So because you're only making $16 profit per unit. So you have to sell more than 3 units. You're only starting to profit more than you would have just if you sold them regularly on that 4th unit. So you have to sell like whatever it is, 3.5 times more units just to break even. Right. So think about that next time you're doing a promotion. I'm a huge fan of promotions, but you have to do them properly. Okay. So anyway, a good example of this one is I actually had a client, and this is why it's why I always push so hard for people to know their contribution margin. I had a client that when I started working with them, they told me that their contribution margin on one of their SKUs was 40%, right? So I have learned over the years to always trust but verify. But I was like, oh, cool, all right. I can work with that. It's kind of low, but I can work with that. We can get some optimizations, get it up to 60% probably, something like that. And so I started doing the math. I'm like, let me just to make sure, let me map out like all your expenses. I had them walk me through all the various expenses, and it turns out I was like, oh, what about this? Oh, we didn't factor that in there. Well, how about this thing? Oh, yeah, we didn't put that in there either. Well, what about this? Oh, yeah, we actually forgot to put that one in there too. So that went on and on and on. So when I was done doing this audit for the client, their contribution was not 40%. It was not 30%. It was not 20%. It was 14%. Okay, so that and the difference of that when you scale that out over, this is a multi-million-dollar product, by the way. Uh, so when you scale that out over the course of your business, that is just one of the many reasons that so many entrepreneurs that I talk to are like, I don't know where the profit is going. We're making all these sales, we're multi seven figures, we're eight figures, whatever it is. Why? I thought I was going to have more profit as I scaled the business. And this is just one of the many factors that goes into that is, well, yeah, you're making a lot more revenue, but you're losing so much. You're so inefficient on the contribution margin side of things that all the money is going out. So you're getting the money, but there's so many holes in the bottom of your pipe that you're not keeping any of that money, right? So um, that is basically fixing the leaky buckets, right? And we've all heard of the leaky bucket thing, right? So really, really important to actually put that into practice though, and find out where your leaky buckets are. That is the number one thing to take away from this for the first half of this is find out where your leaky buckets are, okay? Because if you're a doctor and someone walks into your thing with chest pain, right? You might say, "Oh my God, you have a heart attack. Do this. Go to the emergency room or take this pill or take this shot or whatever it is," right? Um, or maybe they just have gas and they just have to let out a nice big fart, right? I literally had a friend that, real quick story, literally had a friend that we we had guys night, had a couple beers, yada yada yada. So he texted me the next day and he's like, "Oh my God, dude, I ended up in the ER last night. I thought I was having a heart attack. My chest hurts so bad." And he long story short, he went into the ER and he ended up, they were just like, "You just have gas," and they gave him gas X, farted a bunch of times, and he felt completely better, right? That is a perfect example of this. I know it's a very strange example. um, Perfect example of this, of you have to diagnose first before you make decisions, right? So um, do that basically. Next part of this is adding more profit from the top part of it. So now we're on the top part of that of the pipe. We have the holes in the top. Now we just got to pour a little water into it, okay? And we do that by activating hidden profit centers. And hidden profit centers are so fun. These are one of my favorite things to do for clients because what we're doing here is we're looking for new opportunities to add revenue and add profit where there was none before. So it's literally a guaranteed win. It's something I do for clients all the time. It's one of the first things I do for clients because when I'm working with clients, I want to guarantee that they get an ROI from me because I know I've wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on agencies who never got me an ROI. So when I was building my own, I was like, okay, how do we solve this ROI problem? I want to make sure that 100% of my clients get a positive ROI when they work with me. This is one of the things that I do. I focus a lot on hidden profit centers, right? So a hidden profit center is basically something that's already in your business that could generate profit but currently doesn't, right? Or maybe it's not in your business yet, but it could be in your business, okay? It's not something like a new product line because it doesn't really work like that. It's not really a new ad channel, right? Because you might lose money from it. The new product line, maybe it doesn't hit, whatever it is. So some examples of this is like if you are selling something and you don't have upsells, okay, you're going to make more money if you add upsells. If you don't have a call center, you're going to make more money if you add a call center. If someone comes into your ecosystem and they're on your checkout page and they leave and you don't have a cart abandonment sequence, you're going to add more money than you did before. If Let's see, if you have someone on subscription and you don't have a process like a retention sequence to help keep them on that subscription, you're going to add more profit than you have right now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Um, so what I really love about this is about both of these things. I'm always looking for things that I can do once and it stays forever, right? So for example, when I had my supplement company, Peak Biome, we had been going for a couple of years, and we're making a lot of money and a lot of profit, right? And we at one point, I can't remember what year it was, probably 2022 ish. I was like, hey, we don't have a call centers. We have no, like, if someone, we're only email. None of our customers can call in for customer support if they want to reorder, nothing like that. And they were an older audience. We sold a constipation product, so typical age range for them is skews older, right? Like 55 plus typically. A huge chunk of our audience was actually 65 plus. So we added a call center. So what did that do? Well, it increased our top line by about 20%. Okay. So, which is great. But here's the thing, that 20%, we had at about a 60%, 65% contribution margin. Okay. So, if you, I'm not even going to try to do the math, but, and I don't remember like off the top of my head how much additional profit that added. But if I had to guess, it would probably be somewhere in the range of about 50% more profit, maybe 50 to 75% more profit to our business simply by adding one thing to the business. And it took me probably, I don't know, 2 years to really dial that call center in, right? And it was nothing crazy. It was, typical outbound, inbound, no super high end or super aggressive sales, nothing like that. I'm not really like a hardcore aggressive sale kind of guy, right? It was very consultative. We were calling, seeing if people wanted to reorder. We were calling old customers. We were doing, various campaigns. Okay. And that one single thing, it took me about 2 years, but it added 50 to 75% profit. And I saw most of that profit like in the first probably 6 months or so. And then it was just kind of dialing in, tweaking it. Luckily now when I work with clients, I've already done that, so I can do it way faster for clients, right? But the point is, you should be looking for areas in your business that you have not capitalized on yet, right? So if you just think, I always think in terms of the customer journey. All right, someone comes into your ecosystem starting at the ad level, and you can do things on the ad side, right, to subtract or add profit. And then they hit your landing page. You can do things on the landing page side to subtract or add profit. You can do things on the checkout page, on the upsell sequence, on the post purchase sequence, throughout the lifetime of their customer, with direct mail, on the phone, all these different places, right? Adding new channels, or like for example, a Google search campaign, right? I know when we did that, we got I think it was about a 6x ROI that I took, I don't know, 2 hours to set up one time, and then I sold that business of July in 2025, but I got to enjoy the fruits of that labor for like 4 years at a 6x net ROI. Same thing with doing a direct mail sequence that I did, now, which I now do for clients, right? And it's all these various things that when you add them up, Amazon was another one. We weren't on Amazon for a long time. We added that, boom, more profit overnight, right? There's a lot of these different things that they're literally guaranteed to add more profit to your business because they're not there now and you're adding them, right? So of the two, I typically prefer adding new profit centers over fixing leaky buckets because you're adding something, it's a guaranteed win. But you should be doing both simultaneously, and doing it based on priorities. When you're looking at, if you have a list of 20 things that you can add and 20 things that you can fix, right? Map them all out and do like do a calculation of like your expected increase, how confident you are, how many resources it's going to take. And I actually have a spreadsheet that you can like map this all out, and it gives you like a literal score, and then that prioritizes which ones you should do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. Right? My favorite ones are when you combine them, right? So when you fix a leak, it simultaneously opens up a new profit center. And for me, like, those are some of the highest leverage moves that you can do in business, because you're doing the thing where you take one domino and you knock that domino over, and then that domino fixes other problems. It removes constraints. It adds profit. It saves money. Whatever that thing is. So one example of this is, if you renegotiate fulfillment, right? You can. That's going to, let's just say that you improve your terms, and right now you're paying for inventory 2 months in advance, right? And you get that down to 1 month in advance. Well, that immediately locks up 30 days of working capital in your business that you can then, so you're saving that cash, right? Not really profit, but cash. But you can then that speeds up your capital return velocity by an entire month, which is a big improvement, gives you a full extra month of working capital, right? Which you can then redeploy into getting more customers, which helps you add more revenue. And then you're gonna, and then more profit and all the things, right? Another thing that you can do is cut unprofitable SKUs, right? And again, I have a thing that I work with clients where we map out all the various SKUs. We look at essentially like um, the ratio of like the revenue to the profit they do, and it basically shows you which are your most profitable SKUs, which are your least profitable SKUs. But also you can layer in like conversion rates and average order values, and it just shows you which ones to focus on, and it's awesome, right? And so that's basically what you're doing is you're just looking through your business, trying to find areas that are unoptimized, right? That you can optimize and save money from leaking out the bottom, and you're looking at from the top and seeing where you can just pour in a little water, or pour in that water again equaling potential profit, right? And just add that into the water that goes into your bucket, right? So um, I let me give an example of this one. So I had a client that was doing a couple million bucks, and he came to me, and we were just talking over some of his expenses, and I was looking at his fulfillment, and I'll just go with that one because we talked about fulfillment before. So we were looking at his fulfillment costs, and I just knowing the market, I've been in it so long, right? I just know a lot of things intuitively, and I was like, hey, that seems a little high for what you're selling, right? I've been in supplements. I know what fulfillment costs should be, like what percent of your revenue, fulfillment, and COGS and all that kind of stuff should be, right? And I looked at that. I was like, that's kind of high, man. We should dig into that. And so I did. And I'm like, hey, if you need a new fulfillment partner, here's who I recommend. Go with them, but like shop around and see what's best for your business. But here's who I recommend. So long story short, he comes back to me about I think it was about 2 months later, and he's like, "Dude, thank you so much for for having me go through that. I What happened was I went and I audited all the costs, and then I started talking to a couple people, and we moved to your recommended fulfillment center, and they're giving us the exact same quality that they were getting before." Same speed, same number of errors, all that kind of stuff that all these fulfillment centers have, right? Same shipping costs, like all that stuff, but or not shipping costs, but same. I don't know. I forget what the other one was. But long story short, he ended up saving $300,000 a year, and all that took was a conversation with me, pointing out something that he overlooked, and he looked and he spent a couple weeks talking to some people, right? And he fixed it and ended up same service, $300,000 more in his pocket, and then he sold that business. I don't know, probably 3 years later, I think. So he ended up that made him $900,000 plus the added value that he got when he sold the business. So if he got, we'll just say 3x, right? That would be an extra $900,000 that he got. So that made him $1.8 million just by a half hour phone call with me, right? And just to be clear, I don't know exactly what his multiple is when he sold. I actually never asked him, but we'll just go on assumptions. So the filter for this is as you're moving forward and you're looking for things to do in your business, right? We all have a bazillion things to look for or to do in our business, right? When you're looking at that giant list of to-dos, just put this filter on it. Is there something like is this plugging a leak that's already bleeding profit, or is this activating profit that's possible, right? We can just add something, but we don't have it now, right? It's such a simple framework to think about, and it can make you so much money if you layer that onto your existing thinking as you're just thinking about what to do in your business. Use that as the lens of where can we add more profit and where can we save the money from coming out the bottom, right? So just imagine, imagine that pipe. There's holes in the bottom, holes at the top. Use that as your analogy moving forward, And I promise you will make so much more money. If you'd like my help doing any of this stuff, just reach out, go to scaleadvisors.com. You could even pick up the book. That's at scaleadvisors.com/book. Either way, I hope this helps you. Let me know if it did. Give it a like, share, comment. Let me know if it helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.